So this is what I did 2 weeks ago. I actually pulled a list of absentee owners. So absentee owners are anyone that owns a property, but they're not living at that property. So that's absentee list. And then you have, so you're buying all these different marketing lists. Let's say you have absentee list, probate, pre-foreclosure, and driving for dollars. So if you were not using list stacking, what you would do is you would buy all these different lists, and then you would send, let's say for this purpose, we say we're going to use direct mail. So what would happen is, let's say you get a list of absentee owners. What you'll end up doing is you'll send mail to those 4,000 people. Then you'll get a list of probate, and then you'll send 3,000 mailers to those people. Then you'll get a list of pre-foreclosure, send them mail, 3,000 people, driving for dollar, you mail them, or whatever marketing you're doing, you reach out to those 1,000 people. And then you will have 11,000 marketing pieces, whether it's calling, texting, sending mail that you've done. But what list stacking does is it basically takes all the different marketing lists that you have, it puts it in a system like, REsimpli list stacking. And then what it does, it only allows for one unique property to only show up on. So if you have, imagine if you have 123 Main Street on your absentee list, probate list, pre-foreclosure list, and driving for dollar list. If you were not stacking your list, if you were not cleaning up your data, then you would end up sending the owner of 123 Main Street for that property 4 mail pieces. You may end up calling that person 4 times. You may end up sending text message to that person 4 times, and it just makes you as the investor come across a little bit unprofessional, not knowing, what you're doing, reaching the same owner for the same property multiple times. It's you can imagine any other business. Let's say if there's a local dealership in your place, let's say the same owner owns, a Toyota in, so I'm going to use, in Lake County in my area, and the same owner owns another Toyota dealership in a different county, neighboring county. And if they keep sending me the mail, the same exact mail piece, wanting me to buy the car, but just from different dealerships, even though the dealership is owned by the same owner, it's just going to, make it look like, hey, what's going on? You're sending me the same offer, exact same thing, just from 2 different, dealership. But in our case, it's going to be the exact same, most of the time people would just send the same direct mail or postcard or letter to the same person for the same property, exactly saying the exact same thing. And it just, the owner is going to look at it and wonder, hey, wait a minute, why are you sending me the same mail piece for the same property 4 different times? So that's what list stacking does. It makes your list very, very targeted. So imagine, if you were not stacking your list, what you would be doing is you would be sending mail pieces to these 11,000 people. Now, let's say for this purpose, we're going to say, let's say postcard costs about 50 cents. So you're going to end up spending $5,500 reaching out to those 11,000 people. And what if you only had budget to spend about $1,500? Then which, list are you going to pick? Are you going to pick absentee? Are you going to pick probate? Are you going to pick pre-foreclosure or driving for dollar? So that's another benefit where list stacking, what it does is, you put all your lists in a list stacker, and it tells you which property owner is on multiple lists. So if you had a limited budget of, let's say, $1,500 to spend on your marketing, so what list stacking is going to do is it's going to tell you which property owner appears on multiple lists, has multiple pain points. So the best way to think of a list is a pain point, essentially. So when you pull a list of absentee, that's a pain point, that's a separate list, meaning think of a list as a pain point that the owner might have, a motivation point the owner might have why they would want to sell their property. So absentee, everything else being equal, an owner who does not live at their property would generally tend to be more motivated to sell their property than somebody who's a homeowner and lives at their property. So generally absentee tends to be one motivation point. And probate, if they're going through probate, that's another pain point or motivation point. Somebody who's on a pre-foreclosure, that's going to be another motivation or pain point that you have. And driving for dollars, what we talked about last week, you're adding properties to your driving for dollar list that have some signs of distress, meaning another motivation point or pain point that the owner has. So now if you only have a limited budget of $1,500 to spend on your marketing, you're going to look at people that are appearing on multiple lists. So everything else being equal, somebody who's just on absentee list versus somebody who's on absentee, probate, pre-foreclosure, and driving for dollar list, everything else being equal, they would have more motivation to sell their property than someone who's only on one list. So that's another value of stacking your list that you get, is you tend to find out the owners that have more motivation. So even if you had, $5,000 or $5,500 to spend, you want to reach after the people that have multiple motivation points, pain points, than somebody who's only on one list. So that's another thing that list stacking does really, really well, is it helps you stack your list and go after the people that have way more motivation to sell their property than someone who might just be on like one list here.